Mozambique was a Portuguese colony and later a member state of Portugal. Mozambique ended almost 5 centuries as a Portuguese colony when it gained independence in 1975. When Vasco da Gama reached the coast of Mozambique in 1498, Arab trading settlements had already existed along the coast and outlying islands for several centuries, and political control of the coast was in the hands of a string of local sultans. From about 1500, Portuguese trading posts and forts displaced the Arabic commercial and military dominance, becoming regular ports of call on the new European sea route to the east. By the 1530s, small groups of Portuguese traders and prospectors seeking gold penetrated the interior regions where they set up garrisons and trading posts and tried to gain exclusive control over the gold trade. There was slavery with human beings bought and sold by African tribal chiefs, Arab Muslim traders, and Portuguese and other European traders as well. Mozambique gained independence from Portugal in 1975 and in 1995 joined the Commonwealth, becoming, at the time, the only member nation that had never been part of the British Empire. The government type is a multi-party democracy. Economic overview. Mozambique is a low-income East African economy, mostly rural labor force, natural resource rich, strong South African ties, newly discovered natural gas, but currently in court over massive debt. More recently, in the period 20 to 2021, poverty averaged 64% and is estimated to remain at that level in 2022. Mozambique's hunger statistics for 29 was 31%, whose food intake is insufficient to meet dietary energy requirements continuously. Ethnic groups are Makua, Songa, Makondi, Shagan, Sona, Sena, Andao, and other indigenous groups, and approximately 10,000 Europeans, 35,000 Euro-Africans, and 15,000 South Asians. The country comprises Christians, 30%, Muslims around 17%, indigenous Africans, and the rest around 45%. Natural resources are gas, hydropower, and graphite. Agriculture products are cotton, cashew nuts, sugarcane, tea, cassava, corn, coconuts, sisal, citrus, and tropical fruits, potatoes, sunflower, beef, and poultry. Industries are food and beverages, chemicals, fertilizer, soap, paints, aluminium, petroleum products, textiles, cement, glass, asbestos, and tobacco.
Okay, I'm MacAbbey, and I'm here today with Moacyr Bittencourt, who I'll leave for an introduction. I'll first introduce myself. I've been working in development since the late 1970s, over 40 years, South America, Africa, Bangladesh, and I'm here to discuss today with Moacyr the issue of, under the poverty agenda, the root causes of poverty. So let's begin with you, Moacyr, in terms of, can you give a brief introduction yourself?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk about this issue, the theme, very interesting and important thing for development. Understanding the root causes of poverty is key to be equipped and enabled to study and bring up solutions. My name is Moacyr Bittencourt. I'm a Brazilian citizen. I've been working with international development agencies and international NGOs for more than 25 years by now. My background of studies is in business administration, specialized in cooperatives and self-management. I have been a director for many NGOs in different duty stations in Latin America, in Africa, and Eastern Europe. And by now I'm working in Africa, in Southern Africa, dealing with emergencies and humanitarian response to catastrophes and other issues. This is me by now, some long life experience working with international NGOs in different areas of the world.
Okay, that's why you're here, Moacyr, your experience. Can you give your thoughts on what you think are the root causes of poverty, and how might development sector organizations, whether they're NGOs or multilaterals, how they might be addressed. So over to you.
Well, I'm going to talk about my own perspective, my impressions as a practitioner in the sector, not as a scholar or as a professor, nothing like that. I'm not a university professor. So I'm going to just bring my vision of what it is. It may be have some intersection with some other points of view of more people who study the phenomenon of poverty. But my understanding is that essentially it's root causes of poverty it's because of extreme inequality and inequity in income distribution and in the access to the means of production. And then this generates disparities that can be worsened through specific regimes or specific state methods on how to cope with the phenomenon of poverty. And I believe that these are the essential two things: an equity in the distribution of income. So you have an economy or a state of things, a status quo that privileges a small percentage of the population, while the great percentages is still suffering from basic access to things that could be essential for those people to develop their own capacities and then overcome the state of poverty, the situation of poverty. But and then in the other hand is like access to capital, access to better positioning of their own labor, and also access to the land, are the three main classic production factors. So the actual solution for poverty must come from the state. The state is the entity, the structure that has the power to actually conduct solutions towards ending or alleviating the poverty. But the resolution to resolve the problem, it's something that it must be taken at state level. NGOs, multilateral agencies, even the UN, what the third sector of non-for-profit sector can do is to support identifying solutions, piloting solutions through projects, programs to alleviate poverty. But the actual resolution of the problem is something that has to do with how the state gets the capacity to get people with reasonable health and good economic access to the means of production. And then through public policies, the states in general can identify ways of, throughout time, to equalize or minimize the distance between the two extremes, too poor to rich. So essentially, I believe that these are the root causes of poverty. Now, I believe that there are some instruments that the states can use as to promote a better access to the means of production and better income distribution. And those may be in parallel to public policies that would tackle these specific things. Like I said, I am a specialist in cooperatives and self-management enterprises. And I do believe in the force of cooperativism and self-management enterprises as a way to develop the economy of a certain sector in a state, in a country, or as a whole in the country. This is what I can, let's say, put from my experience and my point of view, and I just to foster discussions. I'm not bringing any solution, but I'm just provoking discussions on the issue of poverty, on how we can provide solutions in this cycle of poverty and how to get out of it.
Hey, I agree with you completely, Moacyr. We're trying to promote discussion to there's no solution, but to figure out how we can do a better job at addressing it. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Hunger, politics, and society. Mozambique's hunger statistics for 2019 was over 30%, showing the percentage population whose food intake is insufficient to meet dietary energy requirements continuously. According to Index Mundi, Mozambique imported around 300,000 metric tons of wheat in 2022, around 10% more than in 21, and 760,000 metric tons of milled rice, which was around 15% more than in 2021. There are food shortages, and the shortages are dispersed across the country. In terms of governance indicators, the indicators are all rated very low, almost less than 25%, meaning that there is around 75+% scope for improvement in controlling corruption, in improving the effectiveness of governance, improving political stability and decrease of violence and terrorism, in improving the quality of regulations, rule of law, and encouraging and improving voice and accountability. Food production and distribution on peace and security. Around 2 million metric tons of maize was estimated to be harvested, which was a 17% increase compared to 2021, while sorghum, millet, and rice production increased by 0.6 to 6.6% compared to 2021. Similarly, around 7.1 million metric tons of tubers, that's cassava, sweet potato, and potatoes, were harvested in 2022, a 5.4% increase compared to last year, along with 308,000 metric tons of oilseeds and 572 metric tons of legumes. The rise in crop production is being attributed to continued investments in agriculture production, including the government's Sustenta program. The 2022 harvest is supporting food availability and household food access across much of rural Mozambique, driving minimal IPC Phase 1 outcomes. Conflict. Last September was characterized by several attacks in Cabo Delgado and neighboring parts of Nampula province, destroying infrastructure and houses and causing fatalities. According to IOM's tracking matrix, around 33,400 people in Cabo Delgado were registered on the move between August 31 and October 3rd, with around 60% of people reporting to be on the move because of attacks or fear of attacks, while 38% were on the move with the intention of returning to their place of origin or joining their families. According to government sources, the attacks in the districts of Memba and Irati in Nampula province were aimed at recruiting new members of the insurgents. Most displaced households from the two districts have either returned to their areas of origin or are being taken in by relatives and friends. However, humanitarian assistance needs remain high and urgent for households that have not returned and the returnees that have lost their homes and livelihood assets. The INGD estimates that around 47,000 people were displaced in Irati district. Crisis IPC Phase 3 is most likely in the conflict-affected areas where access to humanitarian assistance is limited due to insecurity. In the more accessible areas of Cabo Delgado, where humanitarian partners can regularly distribute humanitarian food assistance to the IDPs and host communities, stressed IPC Phase 2 outcomes are present. Creating a food-secure society. Across most of rural Mozambique, minimal IPC Phase 1 outcomes are present as households have access to food stocks and regular income earning opportunities. In the drought-affected areas of southern and parts of central Mozambique, Crisis IPC Phase 3 outcomes persist as poor households face food consumption gaps due to limited access to food and income following a significantly below average 2022 harvest. Crisis IPC Phase 3 outcomes are also present in conflict-affected areas of Cabo Delgado province, where sporadic attacks continue to displace households and limit access to food and income-earning opportunities. Similarly, in areas of Nampula affected by Cyclone Gombi, Tropical Storm Ana, and the low pressure zone associated with Tropical Storm Dumako, poor households that lost their food reserves and access to their typical income earning opportunities continue to have limited access to income earning opportunities and remain dependent on support from family and friends, or are engaging in coping strategies indicative of crisis IPC Phase 3 outcomes. In areas recovering from the cumulative effect of recurrent shocks over the past few years, stressed IPC Phase 2 outcomes persist as severely affected families can earn incomes to meet their food needs but not their non-food needs. However, in areas where humanitarian assistance is being regularly distributed, stressed IPC Phase 2 outcomes persist.
Yeah, good afternoon again. Actually, I am Naila Bushora from Sudan. Actually, I work for organization and long experience in development and humanitarian work.
Anyway, so I was in charge of, I toured the whole plan, you know, from the field office to the regional office, to the country office, to Plan USA, and then to the headquarters. And so I've seen the whole work of Plan. And of course, Plan is so special to many of us. How do I spend my time now? I volunteer, so I read proposals for a small NGO, a small funding agency here in the East Coast in New England. And I still mentor young, you know, professionals. And I'm in the board of trustees in our local church. So I still keep myself busy. So
my name is Nene So. I also work with Plan for almost 15 years. This is where I met also Akil. But before Plan, I was working with UNICEF, with USAID before to join Plan. So with Plan, I was in the program department, and I was a director of program in various countries, including Cameroon, Mali, my own country, Guinea, Conakry, Rwanda, and Tanzania. So what I'm doing now, I'm involved in some cooperative work with people, with farmers in general, with producer, and then we try to do bioproduct using fertilizer, which are not chemical. And I'm very fully involved in this. And there are also many women in those groups.
We have like 35 years of experience in working with especially saves and care groups of women. I work with MicroSave, I work with CARE, and I work with an organization called APMAS, which only work with the women self-help groups, like SACCOs in Kenya. So, but this is predominantly around savings and credit. And I recently, May 31st, recently, I came out of my full-time job, where I was working with financial inclusion, again, focused on the women SHGs. So I started actually supporting my friends' organizations, and I am also part of one NGO. I am a chairman for that NGO. which actually provides food support to the poor people in Hyderabad city. So, okay, I belong to India and I live in Hyderabad. I've been in Philippines, Afghanistan, and short time in Kenya.
Yeah.
I am currently working with this organization called Udyogini, which is an organization focused on creating women entrepreneurs. In fact, the name in Udyogini in Hindi exactly means that, like a woman entrepreneur. But I've spent, 2 years in this organization, but before that, I've actually worked in a variety of organizations across, in the last 2 decades.
So my name is Shikha Gildial, and I actually started working with women in '93 when I was working with an organization called PRIA, Society for Participatory Research in Asia. Dr. Rajesh Tandon was heading it. And we started working with women leaders in Panchayati Raj, but later, and also went for the Beijing conference in 1996. Then I joined Save the Children in Delhi and went on to join Save the Children in Kathmandu, Nepal, on, governance, children and governance, in which I was looking after South Asia. And then I joined Plan International in Nepal first for like 4 years. And then I went to Vietnam with Plan International. Yeah.
Okay.
I worked there for like about 3-4 years, and then went to Thailand to work with an organization called International Child Support, ICS. So then I left and joined Save the Children Australia in Solomon Islands. And there I worked with, and like Anjan, I think, who was in Afghanistan, I went to Afghanistan to work with the Afghan Aid, where we did work with women also and education, and UNICEF for like 6 months, and then to Afghanistan, Swedish Committee for Afghanistan, SCA, where I worked on gender and on child rights. And the first one is, does empowerment mean to you, right? Equality or equal opportunity? The second question relates to my Beijing visit. For socialization hinder women's empowerment.
Now you have reached a certain level of competency after so many years of experience and expertise and moving around the world. You have gained so much more than an average human citizen of the world. How does it feel?
Yeah.
How does it feel? Do you feel empowered?
Good evening, everybody. Great to have you participating in this discussion on women's empowerment. So the first question was, is empowerment, women's empowerment, equality, and then, as Dipti pointed out, equity?
For me, women's empowerment is absolute equality. And that would include equity that we're talking about. And when I said absolute equality, I have equal rights. I have equal rights to education. I have equal rights to opportunities. And when I said it includes equity, if I have equal rights, that means if the government has to develop tool that will support different heights of people to see the view, for me, that is being, that's having, I am empowered if I have equal rights. If my voice is heard, if I have space on the table, if I have the freedom to choose what's good for me. This is a big issue in the States right now, women's reproductive rights. So if a woman is being asked to, to choose between her body and whatever the government wants or their religion wants, that's not empowerment, So for me, that is empowered women would look like.
It's what you feel about empowerment and what you feel about equity and equality.
Well, I seldom use equity, because for me, equality should ensure that actually there's equal distribution of opportunity, equal distribution of what do you call this, of resources. I like the example that you gave about the plate or the cup. It's the same thing with the stool. Remember, there is this high fence, and
Yes.
if you have a small stool, then the smaller people couldn't see the rest of the scene. So for me, equal rights means whether it's the government or the organization will provide the resources to ensure that everybody has the appropriate stool. I call it stool, so that they can see the whole view. Everybody can see the whole view.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? That's why I do not differentiate. I actually I put equity under equality. Maybe I'm different from the definition that has been that I have read all these years, and I have come to the conclusion that equity is part of the whole, the making sure that there's equality across, whether it's women, LGBT, or or based on
Minority,
race
yeah.
and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just do I raise my hand?
For what?
I've raised my hand. Okay. So what you're really saying is that equity, according to the general definition, is that you are getting the resources, but you're getting the resources according to your circumstances. So if you're using the definition of or the example of a stool, somebody short will need a higher stool and somebody tall will need a shorter, but you're getting a stool. But even that stool is according to your circumstances. In equality, it would be you're getting equal stools. So whatever, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, please,
No, but that's
please
why,
don't go ahead.
I think based on at this age, I already have defined in my head that equality would mean that whether it's the government, the organization, or whoever will ensure that those resources are available, so everybody can be on the same on the same height. You see what I mean? It's not. I don't. I understand what you're saying, but I've said for me that should be that should be part of equal rights of everybody.
Yeah, I think that's been a bit well summarized. And for me, I will say that equality opportunity will contribute actually to get empowerment. As Maya also said, equity should complete it. A quick example for me will be like in the farmers, usually people do small-scale farm at house level. And then let's see, you have men and women. It can be institution, it can be private, it can be individual who come now come to help them to have a more plot, and so that to have more income from the crop yield. But the person or the institution did not go far. They did not see, for example, what are both for are at what level are for, about knowledge in farming, about modern technique, or maybe about getting even loan for fertilizer. The person just give them, assuming that both are at the same level. So for me, adding now, asking who does not have those staff at the beginning, and adjusting that mean equity for me, is that mean equality will complete that equity to have be empowered.
My answer is going to be in two parts. So one short answer. The short answer, Shikha, to your question that whether equality or equity, the answer is actually yes to both.
And why? Because, you know, it depends. Now, that the longer answer for that is that when we, to give you an example, do we want education to be available to everyone? Yes. So that is equality. And then do we, by that, just giving, you know, education to everybody or making that facility or resource available to everybody, does this help? No, because for a variety of reasons, and we can get into that, the second question or the second part of the focus group discussion, is because people would have different needs. People would have different factors, you know, enabling and disabling their participation in education, even when the education as a resource available. So we need equity then, you know, for somebody we would need it because of the vernacular, maybe because of their gender, maybe because of the accessibility, maybe because of the distance. Now, having said this, I really think one of the things that I ask myself whenever we have a debate like that, it's very, you know, it is actually not black and white, because who is seeking equality and equity from whom? And I think it is inherently nested in the power dynamics. So we are in that sense asking, one set of people are asking, you know, from the other set of people. So what that means is that it is nested in the power. And we have to then also recognize that there are some people who are privileged. And then if you are privileged, then maybe we need to also talk about responsibility in that dynamics if we are talking about equality and equity. So I'll stop here.
I will talk more from the savings and credit group point of view. When equality within the in the context of the savings and credit groups or women economic empowerment context, it actually it means access to resources equally to everybody. But at the same time, if you look at this, especially we are talking about women empowerment. In the society, women cannot actually access those resources, or they don't have ability to access those resources, even if they're, for example, they provide opening up the bank account, because of their low levels of education and literacy, biases, discriminatory, within these social norms, and so barriers on the mobility. So they require special attention, or they have the special needs to access those resources, or ability to access those resources. For example, in case of financial inclusion, to open the bank account. So, and I am talking about Indian context. So the banks are actually providing like zero balance account. So without they can open the account without any money. So otherwise there is no, they have, if they want to open the bank account, they have to have some fixed minimum amount they have to keep in the bank. But they removed that hurdle actually. And minimum KYC documents. KYC stands for Know Your Client. So minimum KYC documents required to open the bank account, and even with the zero balance also they can open the bank account. So anyone can do, but women is mostly require these type of facilities to access to that service. And even if they want to use this service, mostly women will be comfortable with the women agents actually. So they can't go to the bank, which is 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers away, because of the social barriers. Again, the hurdle on the mobility of the women to go to the bank. So that's why government actually, or private agencies, okay, so they have provided a facility. The bank can open a outlet within the village by appointing the business correspondent. So within the business correspondent also, they can appoint more male and female also. But the programs actually, National Rural Livelihood Mission, State Rural Livelihood Missions, they started appointing female BC agents. So where female or women are comfortable to go and talk to them and open the bank account, start savings and access the credit or other bank services from that outlet. So these are the special services or financial women inclusion, women inclusion actually in these activities, enabled women to access the resources.
Said development actor, we usually think that opening, financial services at the rural level, or helping them to have the village saving group, sometimes also it has to be contrary, not empower them, but it was the contrary. But I know this is a long debate today, because sometimes instead the women are member of the group, but in fact it's the men beyond, and at the end also it's men who will take the money, not her, in spite of her participation every time to meeting. But it's a long debate. I think maybe it will be a subject for another day.
Yeah. Actually, for me, I think equality, is a basement through which that we can bring in, empowerment. Equity, it is like a solution, a very solution between the two. But when we talk about, equality, so I think equality for me, and I think for most of us, it is about, enjoying the same status, and also to achieve, or to realize, all your rights in life, as a woman, as a human being. And at the same time, it is not only the realization of the rights, it is about also the opportunities that given, for me or for women, and men, and also how they can have the power even to capitalize on those opportunities to reach like a very good, outcomes when it comes to their life. So for me, equality is about having, the skills, the knowledge, the power, that give you, position that you fulfill also your right, and at the same time, you use the opportunity that you have more effectively, and at the same time, also help you, to achieve the outcome that you want to intend. For me, equality is a basic and the foundation, especially when we talk about gender equality. And I think from our even introductory discussion, we did touch on how, gender inequality exists when we talk about, the social norms between men and women, between boys and girls, and how it is constituted actually by the society. And for us, I think it is the society who should dismantle that inequality. So for me, equality, it is the main bridge, to reach empowerment. Empowerment also, it is about, your capacity, to have a decision over your lives, and also has a lot to do about your capacity and how you are capable to influence decision, that related to your life, related to the economic situation that you are in, relation to your social situation that you are in relation to all even violations that existing around you. So I think empowerment is the ultimate, actually. I would say good result for a good work for equality. And to reach actual equality, it is not an easy issue or an easy task. It is about, how we work together. Like for us, when we talk about gender inequality, men and women, boys and girls, to address actually the root causes of gender inequality or any inequalities, because it is about hitting the structural causes when we talk about social norms, culturals, even economic, when we talk even about the economic, the access to the economic opportunities. It is about addressing policies. Yes, there is some causes at the household level, at the community, but most of it is about the social structure, about the practices, about the economic, strata. It is about existing policies when we talk about really addressing equality in a comprehensive manner. So it is not an easy road, but it needs to be planned for it, intersectoral at different levels, starting from within the family, the household level, going up to the different level, up to the national, global, regional. So I think empowerment, it is a long journey, but it can be reached. Without it, we cannot achieve, the well-being. We cannot also address even poverty.
So yeah, for me, the environment or the culture that I'm coming from, for me, to be very honest, the women empowerment is totally, I would say, based on the equality of opportunities. For instance, if we see by nature, women is made different. Okay, women is different than men. So in all this, so if we say socially as well physically, so everyone, in every terminology, I think that or what I experience is that if I am given the equal opportunities, that is why I am empowered. But in the same culture, if we have the equal, if we say we are being treated equally, but still empowerment would not be that easy to achieve. So that's in short my answer to your question.
Yes, I can have like the equal opportunity, but unless I have the information, the knowledge and skills, I'm not going to get, or to capitalize on that opportunity. So I just want to chip in with this point.
Okay, thank you. So can we sum this up, Akhil? Discussion till now?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello.
And you can also.
No, I just.
Okay.
It's coming back. I just had one last question before you get on to the next. Is that I mean, like Sumera has given a very interesting example, and now, I mean, how has equality and what is it called? I mean, equality and
Equity.
and in your lives, how has this struggle affected you? That is what I would like to hear. I mean, we do know the definitions and we do know the differences, but like, how long did it take for say, Dipti? How long did it take you to make a place in society, where people actually respect you for who you are and what you are? Things like that. So how long does it take to sit along with the other guys in the board of directors and be happily talking to them on an equal level? And that is what is the interesting point in this first question.
I'm glad you asked, Akhil. To me, empowerment is actually not a destination, and it's a journey, and it's a process which is not linear also. So there are, same moments when I feel empowered and disempowered actually at the same time. And so, is there a road to it? Is there a timeline to it? Is there, a formula, a set formula? I would say no. It's actually dependent on a variety of things. If I were to speak for myself, let's say, so I come from a family where women are actually expected to just get married and have children. I'm from Rajasthan, a very, very remote, I mean, not remote, but it's a conservative side. But, in general, the mood of, the society is that. So from there to actually deciding that, 1, I want to work, 2, I don't want to marry, 3, I don't want children, 4, I want to continue working and have a life the way I like.
Yeah.
If you were to say that this happened the day I realized that this is what I wanted, no. In fact, because of the socialization, which is the second question for this group, I think, if you have been trained all your life that this is what you do or expected to do, and your worth is only when you do these things, it's a battle. It's a constant battle, not because externally when I am having this conversation with either my parents or relatives or at my workplace, no, this is even a battle within. And so how do you work on those? And so there is actually, there are days when you move forward, there are days when you slip back. And so then from there, if you come to the boardroom where, sorry to say this, but even today, I think we haven't really helped men to have that,
respect.
Actually their empowerment also in that sense where they can sit across the table and would not make a remark if a woman in my office says that she has 2 kids and she has to look after them and she won't come for the meeting. So you actually share the boardroom with those men, trying to say that we're working in an organization which is for women empowerment, quotes and quotes. So, yeah, I don't know how long will it take, Akhil. So anyway, I'll stop here.
I think the question we should be asking ourselves is empowerment external or it's within us? I think we have gone around the different, factors. I always hate hearing, we need to empower women. It's us who need to empower ourselves. The men need to empower themselves. Of course, the issue now will be, are there resources? Is there education? Are there capacity that that will be available for women, to feel empowered.
Add this, it's actually true that, the parents who were supportive, I understand exactly what you're saying, that people in the environment around you, I think that is the first step. And I think I've been fortunate. And I also think at the same time that it's a battle also the people who support in you. I mean, like us, the development workers, it's not easy when we are asking for the shift in how people think or how the structures are. So,
I think the empowerment should really be within us. But again, what are the tools needed so that we can feel empowered or that we can empower ourselves? So I guess I'm beginning with that whole family. I'm just happy to have the confidence because that was built in us growing up. Our cousins who were older than us, the male cousins, kept saying they should not go to college because at age 18 they should get married, So, but my father did not listen to that. So all of us went our way. Now I feel empowered because all these years I feel I know what I know and I know what I do not know. And therefore I am confident to learn from other people, and I am confident to hiring when I was still working. I am confident to hire people who know more than I do because I am confident, again, as I've said, with what I know and I do not know. Talking about boardroom, I have, because maybe of the confidence that I have, I know how to tell Akhil, remember our CEO, I know how to tell the CEO, excuse me, I think that is not correct. I think this is what we need to do. And I've done that with another boss of mine in the Peace Corps who just couldn't look at me while I was talking. And I told him, look, I will come back when you are able to look at me. Okay. Meanwhile, I'm getting out of your office, So, but to be able to do that, we need to have skills. I heard the ring, we need to have the skills to do that. And very important skill is communication. And of course, for me, the first thing that we need to do for girls and boys is education, really. And I will stop there. Thank you.
No, the issue of time frame. I agree, there cannot be, I don't think there will be time frame. I was reading over the report from the SDG, the last report telling that because of everything, COVID-19, everything coming in the world, they concept poverty alleviation will take now more than 40 years. This is just to say that in this area it's difficult to give time frame.
I think we had a very good discussion, and basic thing is that equity does lead to equality. equality might not lead to equity, but equity would lead to equality, because then you are, talking about resources within the given circumstances, keeping in mind, the different needs of people. So I think you all really did a good job on this question. Thank you.
I work with these women self-help groups for almost like 25 years. And I work with the women entrepreneurs. So from their point of view, when I observed this, how this socialization hindered their empowerment, actually, that what we call women empowerment. Because when I work with the women entrepreneurs, I work in one of the poorest state of the India, Bihar. So the women are, even though we train them on how to do marketing at this time of procurement, because they run small petty shops, grocery shops, but still they confine their whatever they work only sitting in the counter. So most of the time selling the things within their shop, which is located within their village. But whenever there is a procurement required marketing, they send their husbands. So because of this, one of the impact, what we thought is because of socialization, because these women are like semi-literates. Most of their parents' influence, or maybe a little bit of teachers or committee influence. So they think that marketing means procurement, going out means the male work, not our work. So actually that hinders their empowerment, especially they can't understand how to do the marketing, how to do the negotiations, how to bargain, leverage, all those things. They are missing that because of they're not going to the marketing. So even when you see this access to credit, so because these assets are most of the time, these family assets are their land or house on the names of their husbands. When they go for the credit, banks ask for the collateral. So even though shops are owned and managed by the women at large, but still when it comes to the credit, they have to depend upon their husbands, the spouse, to get the credit from the formal financial institutions like banks and all those things. That's where actually, once you depend upon your husband means, like it will also hinder your empowerment as a female. And I also see this unpaid work most of the times. Women are actually, whether this self-help group, savings and credit group members or these entrepreneurs, so confined to the unpaid work most of the times, like because they think that whatever the care they have to take at the family elders or family members or cooking, they think that is responsibility of the female, not the male. So that's why they end up with most of the unpaid work. That's actually hinders their giving time for their upskilling, so enhancement of their opportunities, or even go for the job outside. So these are the hindering. And even the income, for example, the family member, woman member, actually she managed the entire dairy. So take care of the, cows and or buffalo and everything. So when this milk is sold to outsider, the money will come to the husband's account on the name of the husband and the husband bank account. So that's where actually she loses that, like decision making and how to spend, where to spend, all these things. So whenever we conduct training program, so they try to send, especially when I worked in Afghanistan, so maybe some of you know. So because of these local conditions, female cannot go to the house outside. So they sometimes some organizations, even international organizations, they train the male members of their family, and they come back and supposed to conduct training to their wives or members. Okay, whether it is cooperative group, credit group members, or this health or education. So that's where actually women are directly losing that upskilling opportunity because of these social barriers. And even in India also, when I try to work with these financial inclusion activities, where digital financial inclusion, the ownership and use of mobile phone is mostly with the male members or boys, not with the female women and girls. So that's where actually you lose the opportunity of using, you know, hands-on experience, using the mobile transactions, mobile money, and all those things. So this is what, you know, different various aspects I saw from practical point of view. These are the hinders of the women empowerment because of the socialization, you know, from the childhood level or whatever. So
yeah, I just want to add that from my perspective of socialization hindering women empowerment, I think for me, there are two sides of it. It can hinder the empowerment, but for me, it can be also positive. It can contribute to the empowerment of women. I will just give one example for each of them, why socialization can hinder the women empowerment. For example, I can say socialization for me, it's, you know, when, you know, people come together in a setting from family to the community, to the school, like some group in the school, like family setting also is socialization, or the group like solidarity, you know, microfinance solidarity group. All those are area for socialization. I will just start from the childhood. When in the family, if, you know, you are here, you know, a girl, a boy is here, you know, your little sister or a brother or elder brother. But if you every time since you are born, you know, you were told, no, don't do this. He is a boy, he can do it, but you cannot do it. Or you are told, no, you should just, you know, care for cooking because you are going to, you know, to just be, you know, housewife at home, and the other, you know, are educated in such ways that he will get self-esteem, self-confidence. So from this point of view, for example, we can say that socialization will definitely hinder, you know, this girl empowerment. But where it can be also positive, if you go to school, for example, there are also some groups, some clubs in group where children socialize together. And those groups, sometimes you can have like hygiene sanitation group, or you can have a leaders group. This group will help school management in all affairs that concern school. Likely here, socialization can be, you know, benefit to both in terms of decision making, in terms of power, in terms of knowledge, and so on. So I think there is both sides of it.
Socialization, I think, is one of the defeaters of the empowerment when we talk about, you know, empowerment and women empowerment. And I think most of the gender inequalities that existing even in my society, and I think in most of the countries, it is about the existing, actually, social norms, existing, you know, stereotype and cultural practices that, you know, really reinforce the gender inequalities in our societies. Even going back to my own experience, you know, unless, you know, my parent, God actually raised their soul, my mother and father, that supported me in my education, you know, until I reached university. Even after I got married, actually in grade 1 of university. In Sudan at that time, most of the girls who get married, they will just drop out from university.
Wow. Yeah.
So I did actually determine and struggle with the support of my mother at that time, you know, to stay in the boarding school, even after having my first child, you know, until, you know, I graduated and also I did even my higher degree in UK. So for me, the empowerment, I think it should be the logo of every, you know, person, particularly women, is not ever give up, especially when we talk about the social, you know, dynamic and the social, you know, structure and the situations that existing within our societies and our, you know, communities and our nation. But for me, there is like two critical factors. For me, empowerment, it is about, you know, the individual, and I can say it is internal, the person itself. It is about also the supportive, you know, barriers or supporter like the family, because unless your mother and father support you to continue your education, I don't think you will reach that level. It is also about the community surrounding you. So unless we work on the different dimension, to empower actually girls and boys, and also to change even the mindset of the boys and the girls, I don't think we are going to reach empowerment. I think for me, empowerment is critical for any change if we are talking about economic or cultural or even political actually change in our country.
Yeah. Oh, great. Ma, what do you have to say about that?
First of all, thank you very much really for sharing. It just brings back, my active time in development work. But the issues are the same even here. The road is not easy because there are social norms, depends on the culture. So I don't think there is really what do you call this one solution for all, because of you've been mentioning about circumstances. But I just want to reiterate that the work that you're doing, or the work that we have been doing, is really key to ensuring that we contribute to a woman, a girl, a boy, and a man to feel empowered, that he herself feel empowered, whether it's economic or it is basic education. But it's just interesting. We cannot have one solution for everything because of the different circumstances, different in Pakistan, different in Mali, different in India. And it's just a thought. I'm just sharing with you what I had been thinking while I was listening to all of you.
The world thinks American women are empowered.
No.
The socialization hinders women empowerment. Sure. And I'm glad, Shikha, that you brought this question. We really like this, as humans, what is right, what is bad, wrong, what is good, what is bad. Socialization per se, I think, is not a bad thing. I think if it is not this set of norms and social norms, there will be something else. I mean, something that we're trying to bring, let's say, and that would also be some sort of socialization. So socialization per se, I don't think empowers, disempowers. In some ways, yes, in some ways, no. But let's talk about this, that whether socialization in the context where, most of us are, operating, where we are saying that, men, are taught to, behave in certain way. They have a specific gender role, and women have a specific gender role. And because of that, does socialization take away some of the opportunities, some of the rights, in the debate of equality and equity? Yes, I think it does hinder. I would also go on to say that it also sometimes actually enables. To bring an example, say if I were to, look at the women in the tribal area, in the tribal region in India, when we say tribal in our context, mostly the indigenous people. I see that women in that community, in those communities, actually have much more rights, much more rights. By that mean, I would say that they, their social norms allow them to actually walk away from the marriages. Their social norms allow them to actually remarry. It's actually in India, the middle class living in the urban, and, non-tribals have actually much more restrictions. So socialization actually in that context really help. And in this context, so that is one piece. The second is that socialization in the gender debate, I think we all would have, similar ideas around. I think socialization within the same gender also is actually very interesting if you were to look at. So let's say a woman who studied and has gotten, the way she, living her life on her terms and all, and then versus, let's say, a house help that I hire, who also happens to be a woman, But, look at the socialization here. She would believe that she is not even worthy of certain rights that I enjoy without even thinking about them. And so her socialization and my, even when we have the similar gender, would be different. And not just this, in fact, me, and I'm saying as one privileged, woman living in a metro city, a man also who, let's say, cleans our corridors outside, would have a very different idea of how he would think, in that spectrum. So I think my life learning has been that everything is on such a spectrum, and from where you look at it, it makes a huge difference. But yes, would socialization of certain kind which take away anybody's rights, does that hinder empowerment? I would say yes. So that's my answer.
Before because living in Afghanistan, we had a helpline for women, and 70% of the time it was men who were calling and saying we need help. Now, they were socialized to be stronger, to have control, to be mobile, to do everything, to earn and be responsible. But because of whatever reasons, the war, the being wounded or not being able to, it was the women who were working. And they would call and say, I don't understand why my wife or my daughter is doing this. I can't, sometimes I get so violent that I can't stop myself from hitting her. And let's talk about violence in this situation. Why, when we talk about empowerment, we also talk about women not being beaten, not being, and it happens. And why? Because the men feel they are stronger. And a woman is doing something wrong, and that's happening in America, it's happening everywhere. So one was about this domestic violence, and the other was, we were talking about equity, and we said, okay, equal opportunities for women. In Afghanistan, they are doctors, equal opportunity, women can go, but there are no female doctors. So the women can't go. And, sometimes they are given, and I don't know if some people will agree to this, but sometimes they are given opium and all to control their pain. And then they become addicted. So, there are very many things. And then Dipti talked about this matriarchal society where we had John Sar Babar here also, where the women can have two husbands, where when they come home, they can even have affairs, because it's a very matriarchal society and the women are the stronger there.
Yeah, for me, to be very honest, this socialization really affects the empowerment. But at the same time, it is something, it's a kind of social stereotype that is associated with every gender. For instance, in our case, in our society, what we experience most of the times, the gender associations or the socialization that is linked to a specific gender. For instance, woman is responsible for cooking, for taking care of the children, and for the house chores, everything. As far as the woman is doing all of these, you are allowed to work, you are allowed to do the job, going outside, okay, but you have to first do all your responsibilities. So here, see, it's like we just think that this stereotype which is linked to our gender, it is kind of helping us to stay empowered. For instance, if I want to
multitask.
Yeah. So if you're doing all the jobs, then you are empowered. Okay. But if at the point, if you say that I'm not cooking, maybe because if I'm working full time a day, like my husband, and I say that I don't cook, but then I would not, my husband would say that, okay, just stay home, because your first priority or job is to, stay home and do the home things. Yes. So here, see, it's like this. And then at the same time, the socialization that is related or that is linked or we have experienced in Pakistan, most of the times, the women or the girls, they are not allowed to choose the specific subjects for the studies. For instance, if we say that we want to study, you know, engineering or the subjects, or we want to choose a job to become a pilot, for instance, they say, no, 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 it's not for women, okay? It's for men.
Home
Men
science.
can be, yeah, men can be only pilot. They can take this, you know, big risks or these kind of job, the strengthy job. So it's like this. So it's always sometimes, you know, we feel we enjoy this gender stereotypes that are linked to us to you know, feel more empowered. So it's like this. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. You know, we had for Women's International Day, we called people when I was in Afghanistan to talk, and there was a woman wrestler that I called, and you know, everybody was like, "Oh my God, there is an Afghani women wrestler," and she was very empowered in her way. But I really don't know how she is now, because she was totally out of the norms of what a woman should be doing. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
I just want to make
Yeah,
a
Maya.
little comment. I do not know how older. I think I'm much older than most of you, and all of you.
No, I think I am. I don't know, but let's.
Not
No,
sure.
but I'm just saying that, you know, all these years, because I am empowered, and I will never guess that I am not empowered. And I think no one of you, both the men, these two men, and any one of you should even doubt that you are empowered. You know, because you are, and we are all, and it's really a choice that we have to make how we want to deal with external, right? I At this age, I always say, look, that's your problem, but I will do what I need to do. I will say what I want to say, but I said communications is very important, so you don't become rude or whatever. Um, again, it's just I feel bad, especially for development workers, the women, and you can, you know, you can kick me because I am not in the situation that some of you may be in, but I know exactly, just hearing from my friends who may be in the same situation, how difficult it might be. I had both Plan and Peace Corps colleague. She was in the Peace Corps before, and then she moved to Plan. She got divorced, and she was the outcast in her community. She's Cameroon. She's from Cameroon.
Yeah.
And you know, but she's a strong woman, so she decided to get out. You know, so she got out and do whatever she had to do. And she was, and when a new woman, is it prime minister or president in Cameroon? When a woman president came in, she was taken in as one of her secretaries. But she's strong, and she's for me. That's how what do you call this? An empowered woman should feel. The message that I think I want to say is, you ladies and you gentlemen should really feel empowered, you know, and not. I know we can get frustrated, but as I've said, at this age, I don't get frustrated. That's your issue, and I will do what I need to do, and I will say what I need to say.
Same here.
Employment starts since, you know, childhood, right? And Akil, myself, I was, you know, my childhood, I spent it in Mali, in Africa. But still, I was, you know, happy, you know, to grow up within a family whereby, you know, there was no issue of boys or girls. And I think I'm among of those lucky, really very lucky girls who had the chance, you know, to get parents who will always tell them, do what you want to do. Don't look because you are a girl, or don't say because you are a boy. Absolutely. And then you grow up also in the family setting, you know, saying that your own father wash dishes, your own father cook, you know, likely even for a boy, it will help them also to accept this employment of women. So I want just to tell, even before me to get international exposure, that also contribute definitely, to develop me more, to have more self-confidence and self-esteem also, and to speak up. From the childhood, I was also lucky to have such parents who helped me also to grow in such way.
The strong actually linkages, between the social, norms and the social stereotype and religious. And sometimes also people use religious in order to let those, social, practices exist.
Yeah.
So I just want to confirm that one.
Yeah. Do you feel that the governments who are the duty bearers for bringing about empowerment, people's empowerment, do you think they're doing the right job?
This is definitely not a yes and no answer.
Yeah, it's longer, but in the bigger picture, no.
Yeah. But again, this is where individual empowerment comes
Contextual,
in,
yeah.
So
And contextual, yeah.
Because most governments do not, or and even let's just talk about organization. So, but it's really up to those who feel empowered to really continue fighting, So I am retired. I'm not in the development work anymore, but I do my best to contribute to ensure that people here, government hears what the inequality and the discrimination, whatever issue, So I mean, it's a long road, but we have to continue. So
no, that's great. Yes, of course.
Yeah. Maybe at my side, I can see, the government definitely, if you look about the past up to now, you can see that there was very some improvement. And also, what is very, I don't know, interesting is that we have, all type of document policy, strategies, how to empower it. We are all here, but the only issue is about its implementation. I think this is where the government and all over, even development actor, we have really to do our best, so that, we watch our talk.
And, regarding government, I think as Nini said, yes, there is strategies, they establish units and everything. But for me, it still is not enough, because I think it has to do more with the way even that we develop, our empowerment strategies and the involvement, even of the women and girls and men in that process, and also the political will, that demonstrated by resources allocation in terms of when we talk about human and financial resources. I think there is a lot need to be done, but I think the starting point and just the navigation on the beginning of the road, it is already there.
Thank you very much, all of you, and thank you, Shikha, for co-hosting.
Thank you.
Segment 4, Tiny Enterprises. The Poverty Agenda continues to identify and suggest practical options that could contribute to ensuring a better level of food security and a healthy lifestyle for families when facing any unforeseen shortages.